The Nexus 7 research station hung like a crystalline jewel against the infinite blackness of space, its prismatic exterior refracting starlight into 1,000 dancing rainbows. Inside, the station hummed with a different kind of energy, the electric anticipation of scientific discovery. Zoran Kalik stood before the quantum resonance chamber, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that shimmered and pulsed with incomprehensible data. He was different from most human researchers. Where others saw cold numbers and statistical probabilities, he saw poetry. Each quantum fluctuation was a whisper, each entanglement a love letter written in the language of the universe. His current project pushed the boundaries of what most scientists considered possible: quantum communication across species, across vast interstellar distances, a dream that had consumed him for years. Most of his colleagues had dismissed it as impossible, a fool's errand, but Zoran knew better. The chamber's soft blue light reflected off his dark skin, highlighting the intense concentration etched into his features. Diagnostic algorithms scrolled rapidly, creating intricate patterns that would look like nonsense to an untrained eye. But to Zoran, they were a complex dance of potential and possibility. A subtle change in the atmospheric pressure signaled someone's arrival. Zoran didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Nevia Rixtai moved with a unique grace that defied traditional understanding of movement. Her species, the Luminari, were renowned for their bioluminescent skin that shifted colors based on emotional and physiological states. Interesting results. Her melodic voice carried a hint of curiosity that made Zoran's heart rate subtly increase. He turned, drinking in her appearance. Nevia's skin was currently a soft lavender, indicating a state of intellectual intrigue. Delicate, translucent tendrils that served as both sensory appendages and communication tools cascaded around her shoulders, creating an almost ethereal silhouette. "Interesting is an understatement," Zoran replied, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "We're witnessing something unprecedented. The quantum resonance between our communication protocols is showing synchronization patterns that challenge everything we know about interspecies communication." Nevia's skin shifted to a deeper indigo, signaling deep contemplation. Her tendrils moved in intricate patterns, a complex language of their own that most humans struggled to comprehend. But Zoran had spent years studying, learning to read the nuanced communication of the Luminari. "The mathematics suggest more than mere communication," she responded, stepping closer to the holographic display. "These patterns, they suggest a form of quantum entanglement that transcends traditional understanding." Zoran's breath caught. This was more than professional excitement. Something deeper, more primal was stirring, a connection that went beyond scientific curiosity. Their hands almost touched on the holographic interface, and for a moment, something extraordinary happened. The quantum data points seemed to pulse in synchronization with their proximity, creating patterns that defied statistical probability. Neither spoke. The silence was charged with something more profound than words could express. Unbeknownst to them, their quantum research was about to unveil a connection far more complex and intimate than any scientific protocol could predict. A connection that would challenge the very understanding of consciousness, communication, and potentially, love itself. The Nexus 7 station continued its silent orbit, a witness to a moment that would redefine humanity's understanding of connection across the vast, mysterious universe. 3 standard cycles had passed since the unexpected quantum synchronization. Zoran found himself increasingly preoccupied, not just with the scientific breakthrough, but with the enigmatic Nevia Rixtai. The research station's observation deck became his sanctuary of contemplation. Vast starfields stretched beyond the reinforced transparent aluminum, a canvas of infinite darkness punctuated by distant stellar formations. He traced the quantum data patterns on his personal interface, watching how they seemed to defy conventional scientific understanding. "Anomalous correlations persist," a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. Nevia materialized beside him, her bioluminescent skin now a complex tapestry of deep indigo and soft emerald. A color combination he had learned indicated intense intellectual processing mixed with an underlying emotional complexity. "The synchronization we observed," she continued, "it's not random, there's a deliberate pattern emerging." Zoran turned, catching the subtle movements of her sensory tendrils. They were moving in a rhythm that suggested something beyond mere scientific discourse. "You mean beyond our initial quantum communication hypothesis?" Her tendrils flickered, a luminary gesture he now recognized as agreement tinged with excitement. "Our previous models were inadequate. These patterns suggest a form of communication that transcends linguistic or technological barriers." The research station's artificial gravity hummed softly beneath their feet, a constant reminder of the technological marvel that suspended them in the infinite void. But something else was suspended between them, a connection that defied traditional scientific explanation. Zoran's research team had begun to notice changes. Dr. Camira Solent, the station's lead xenobiological researcher, had approached him earlier with a peculiar observation. "Your joint research is producing results that challenge everything we understand about interspecies communication," she'd said, her voice a mix of professional intrigue and underlying concern. The quantum communication experiments had revealed something extraordinary. When Zoran and Nevia worked in close proximity, the data transmission rates increased exponentially. Communication algorithms that typically required complex computational processes now seemed to flow with an almost organic efficiency. "Have you considered," Nevia's voice broke through his thoughts, "that our connection might be more than a scientific anomaly?" Her tendrils brushed against his hand, a gesture that would have been impossibly alien to most humans, but to Zoran, it felt like the most natural communication in the universe. The station's ambient lighting shifted, mimicking the natural circadian rhythms of multiple species. Blues deepened to purples, signaling the transition to rest cycles. But rest was the furthest thing from Zoran's mind. "The quantum entanglement we're experiencing," he said carefully, "it's unprecedented. Our neural patterns show synchronization that goes beyond any known scientific model." Nevia's skin rippled, a complex emotional response that spoke volumes without a single spoken word. Soft lavender mixed with deep crimson, indicating a combination of intellectual excitement and something deeper, something that felt remarkably like anticipation. "Some connections," she responded, her tendrils creating intricate patterns in the air, "cannot be explained by current scientific understanding. They can only be experienced." Their proximity was electric, not just metaphorically. Actual quantum measurements showed extraordinary particle interactions when they were close. The universe, it seemed, was trying to tell them something. Outside the observation deck, a distant stellar formation flickered, a cosmic wink that seemed to acknowledge the extraordinary connection unfolding within the Nexus 7 research station. The quantum data continued its dance, a silent symphony of potential and possibility waiting to be understood. The Interstellar Research Council's emergency session crackled with tension. Holographic displays flickered with data points that seemed to defy conventional scientific understanding. Zoran and Nevia sat side by side, their presence alone causing a palpable shift in the room's atmosphere. Director Valen Cross, a veteran xenopolitical strategist, leaned forward, his weathered features etched with a mixture of concern and fascination. "Your research suggests more than just a communication breakthrough. These quantum synchronization patterns are unprecedented." Behind him, a massive holographic display showed intricate quantum entanglement models, a complex dance of particles that seemed to breathe with an almost living intelligence. The data points pulsed in a rhythm that matched the subtle movements of Nevia's sensory tendrils. "It's not just communication," Zoran explained, his voice calm but charged with an underlying current of excitement. "We're witnessing a form of quantum resonance that challenges our entire understanding of interspecies interaction." Dr. Myra Solent, the station's lead xenobiological researcher, interjected. Her holographic projection flickered slightly, a testament to the technological strain of processing such revolutionary data. "The implications are staggering. If this quantum connection can be replicated, it could revolutionize interstellar diplomacy, communication, even conflict resolution." But not everyone in the council saw the potential as an opportunity. Admiral Corin Vex, representing the Interstellar Defense Consortium, looked distinctly uncomfortable. His muscular frame was rigid, hands clasped tightly behind his back. A connection that cannot be fully understood is a potential security risk, he argued, his voice a low growl that seemed to vibrate through the room's quantum-dampened walls. Nevia's skin shifted, a complex palette of blues and silvers that Zoran had come to recognize as a state of heightened analytical focus. Her tendrils moved in intricate patterns, translating complex thoughts into a visual language that few could fully comprehend. "Security is rooted in understanding," she responded, her melodic voice cutting through the tension. "Not in fear." The room fell silent. Even the station's ambient system seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. Director Cross cleared his throat. "We need to understand the full extent of this connection. Dr. Kalik, Dr. Rixta, we're authorizing a comprehensive study, but there are conditions." Zoran felt Nevia's hand brush against his, a subtle connection that sent a quantum ripple through the room's sensitive instruments. The holographic displays flickered, data points dancing in response to their proximity. The first condition was clear: total transparency. Every moment of their research would be documented, analyzed, scrutinized. The second was more complex. They would need to demonstrate that this quantum connection posed no threat to interstellar security. "There are those who will fear what they cannot understand," Nevia whispered to Zoran during a brief recess. Her tendrils created a privacy field, a sophisticated biological technology that blocked audio and quantum transmissions. Zoran understood the subtext. Their connection was more than a scientific phenomenon. It was a bridge between species, between ways of thinking, between entire universes of experience. The research station became a crucible of intense scientific exploration. Teams worked around the clock, analyzing every microscopic interaction between Zoran and Nevia. Quantum sensors mapped their neural patterns, tracking the extraordinary synchronization that seemed to defy known physical laws. But beneath the scientific investigation, something deeper was brewing. Admiral Vex's concerns were not entirely unfounded. Rumors began to circulate about the potential weaponization of their quantum connection. What if this link could be used to infiltrate communication systems, to predict strategic movements, to breach the most secure quantum encryption protocols? Zoran and Nevia found themselves at the center of a growing storm. Their personal connection, their nascent understanding of each other, was now a matter of interstellar importance. During a late-night research session, with the station's observation deck revealing an endless starfield, Nevia turned to Zoran. Her skin had shifted to a deep, contemplative crimson. "They do not yet understand," she said, her tendrils creating complex geometric patterns in the air. "Connection is not a weapon, it is the most profound form of communication." Zoran watched the quantum displays, seeing how their mere proximity caused unprecedented data harmonization. "We're going to change everything," he whispered. Outside, a distant neutron star pulsed, a cosmic heartbeat that seemed to echo the rhythm of their extraordinary connection. The Interstellar Research Council would soon discover that some connections cannot be contained, controlled, or fully comprehended. Some bonds transcend the very fabric of known scientific understanding. And Zoran and Nevia were about to show them exactly how. The isolation chamber hummed with a low, persistent energy. Zoran sat motionless, a network of quantum sensors tracing every microscopic change in his neural pathways. Across the room, separated by a transparent quantum-dampening barrier, Nevia mirrored his position, her bioluminescent skin creating intricate patterns that seemed to pulse in rhythm with unseen frequencies. Dr. Myra Solent's voice crackled through the chamber's communication system. "Quantum coherence at 87.3%, neural synchronization beyond previous recorded levels." It had been weeks since the Interstellar Research Council had sanctioned their most intensive study yet. What had begun as a scientific investigation had transformed into something far more complex, an exploration of connection that defied every known scientific paradigm. Zoran remembered the moment everything changed. It wasn't a dramatic revelation, but a quiet understanding that had crept between them like starlight through a microscopic crack. Their connection was more than data points and quantum entanglement. It was a language beyond words, beyond touch, beyond the traditional understanding of communication. Initiate Phase 3, Myra's voice commanded. The chamber's internal environment began to shift. Quantum fluctuation generators created a field of controlled uncertainty, a space where probability itself became malleable. Most test subjects would experience disorientation, a sense of cognitive disconnect. But Zoran and Nevia remained perfectly synchronized. Their tendrils, Zoran had learned to move his augmented neural interface in patterns similar to Nevia's biological appendages, moved in perfect harmony. The quantum displays showed something extraordinary. Their neural patterns were no longer just synchronized. They were beginning to merge. Unprecedented, Dr. Solent muttered, her voice a mix of scientific excitement and underlying fear. The political fallout from their research had been intense. The Interstellar Defense Consortium saw their connection as a potential threat. Admiral Vex had been relentless, pushing for more stringent controls, more invasive studies. But they didn't understand. During a closed-door hearing, Zoran had tried to explain. This isn't about invasion or weaponization, he'd argued, Nevia standing silently beside him, her skin a complex tapestry of emotions. This is about understanding, about connection. Admiral Vex's response had been predictably militaristic. Connections can be exploited, bridges can be burned. Now, in the isolation chamber, Zoran understood something profound. Their connection transcended traditional concepts of communication, of belonging, of even individual identity. A sudden surge of quantum energy made the sensors spike. Nevia's skin erupted in a cascade of colors, deep crimsons intertwining with electric blues, a visual representation of something beyond human comprehension. Quantum resonance at critical threshold. Myra's voice carried a hint of barely contained excitement. Something was happening. The quantum barrier between them seemed to shimmer, to become less substantial. Zoran could feel Nevia's thoughts not as words, but as pure sensation. Memories that weren't his own flickered through his consciousness. The crystalline landscapes of her homeworld, the complex social structures of the Luminari, the deep philosophical traditions that shaped her understanding of existence. And she saw him, truly saw him. His childhood on the resource-depleted Earth colonies, the years of scientific isolation, the burning curiosity that had driven him to study quantum communication, the loneliness that had defined much of his existence, until now. Quantum synchronization complete, Myra announced, her voice distant and irrelevant. Zoran and Nevia were beyond observation now. They were experiencing a form of connection that scientific instruments could measure, but never truly understand. Outside the chamber, the research station continued its silent orbit. Stars wheeled past the observation windows. The universe continued its endless dance of creation and destruction. But inside, two beings from different worlds had found a connection that defied every known law of physics, of biology, of possibility itself. The quantum displays continued to pulse. A new language was being written, one particle at a time. The Nexus 7 research station trembled, not from external forces, but from the quantum energy building within its core, an energy directly linked to Zoran and Nevia's unprecedented connection. Director Valen Cross stood before the Emergency Council, his holographic projection flickering with intensity. We are witnessing a phenomenon that challenges everything we know about interspecies communication, quantum mechanics, and the very nature of consciousness. Surrounding him, council members from dozen different species watched in a mixture of awe and trepidation. The quantum data streams projected behind Cross told a story no traditional language could capture, a narrative of connection that transcended biological, technological, and dimensional boundaries. Zoran and Nevia sat at the center of this cosmic storm, their connection now so profound that traditional methods of observation had become obsolete. Their neural patterns had merged into something entirely new, a quantum symbiosis that defied scientific classification. "The risks are immeasurable," Admiral Vex growled, his massive form casting a shadow across the holographic displays. "We cannot allow an unknown quantum entity to potentially compromise interstellar communication systems." But Dr. Myra Solent stepped forward, her research data painting a different picture. "This isn't a threat," she argued, her voice cutting through the tension. "This is evolution." The quantum synchronization had revealed something extraordinary. Zoran and Nevia weren't just communicating, they were creating a new form of consciousness. Their merged neural pathways formed a bridge between species, between understanding, between entire conceptual universes. Nevia's bioluminescent skin now pulsed with a complexity that defied human perception. Intricate patterns of light and color told stories that no spoken language could express. Her tendrils moved in hypnotic patterns, creating quantum resonances that made the station's most advanced sensors tremble. "We are more than the sum of our parts," she communicated, not through words, but through a quantum transmission that registered simultaneously as thought, emotion, and pure information. Zoran felt everything: the crystalline memories of Nevia's homeworld, the complex social structures of the Luminari, the deep philosophical traditions that shaped her understanding of existence. And she, in turn, experienced his world, the struggle of Earth's resource-depleted colonies, the burning curiosity that had driven his scientific pursuit, the profound loneliness that had defined his existence until this moment. The station's quantum core began to resonate. Probability fields shifted. For a brief, extraordinary moment, the boundaries between possible and impossible became meaningless. "We cannot control what we do not understand," Zoran's thoughts transmitted across the quantum link. "But we can choose to embrace it." Admiral Vex's worst fears were being realized. The quantum connection between Zoran and Nevia was evolving beyond any predictable trajectory. It was becoming something entirely new, a form of existence that merged individual consciousness into a collective understanding. Dr. Solent's final report would later describe it as the first documented case of quantum consciousness synchronization. But those words felt inadequate. What was happening transcended scientific terminology. As the research station held its collective breath, Zoran and Nevia reached a critical point of convergence. Their merged consciousness expanded, touching the very fabric of spacetime. Quantum entanglement became more than a scientific principle. It became a living, breathing reality. The universe seemed to pause. And then, in a burst of quantum energy that registered across multiple star systems, something extraordinary happened. The boundary between individual consciousness dissolved. Zoran and Nevia were no longer two separate beings, but a new form of existence, a quantum entity that represented the ultimate bridge between species. "We are connection," their merged consciousness transmitted. "We are possibility." Outside the station's reinforced windows, distant stars pulsed in response, as if the entire cosmos acknowledged this momentous transformation. The Interstellar Research Council would debate the implications for decades. Some would call it a breakthrough, others a potential threat. But those who were present would never forget the moment when two beings from different worlds became something entirely new. A bridge, a possibility, a beginning.